Hey guys, today we will be studying Slav exchange variation. It is pretty solid variation and not as quiet as many people think. Many grandmasters using Slav exchange to play for a win. I will show you today what is the best way to play against it. Let's begin. d4, d5, c4, c6. Here we have Slav defense, and there are many ways to achieve Slav exchange. For example, the most common is to take, and then play knight f3, knight f6, and knight c3. Knight c6 and bishop f4. This is Slav exchange, main line. Okay? There's also other ways. For example, they play knight f3, knight f6, and then they take, knight c3. Absolutely no difference. The only difference is when your opponent plays, for example, knight c3, knight f6, then he takes, you take, and then bishop f4. White delays the development of the knight on f3, and after knight c6 they play e3, and after a6 they go bishop d3. So the idea is to prevent knight h5 variation, either here or there. For example, in this line, in the main line, knight f3, when we have this position, bishop f4, black has this move, knight h5, which I personally don't like that much, but I had to play this with white. So overall, Slav exchange is a very, very big line, and this, a very short version of it, of what I prepared the most important lines against it. I myself played Slav exchange with white a lot of times, and I'll just show you quickly how does it really look on my level. So this is my file. Take a look, Slav exchange, and if I'm going to scroll down, you're going to see basically millions of moves here. And sometimes it never ends. It's just like endless variations. It's the same size as Botvinnik. And even this file is not complete. I have a couple of those files with a lot of moves. So we reach now the end. So if I go all the way back, it's huge. But I played with white and I played with black. That's why I have to know it from the both sides, every single move. For us, it's going to be easier. I'm going to close this. And we're preparing this Slav exchange with black. So we don't need to consider every single black possibility, because we need to consider white possibilities, because our moves are only moves. To this respond, we play like this. We don't have deviations. So today we will be doing main line, and main line is when they have knight on f3, knight on c3, and bishop on f4 like this. Modern Slav exchange is when they have knight on c3, knight on f6, take, and play bishop f4, and then they get this position. That will be our next lesson. I'll show you how to play against modern position. There's interesting line. For example, if your opponent going to take, immediately take, knight c3. If you'll be up to adventures, you can play like this, e5. I really like this move. I played myself, and I do think that actually black is doing absolutely fine there. But the problem is I don't like when they play knight c3 first. And now e5 I don't really like, because after take this variation d4, the existence of this pawn's changing evaluation, because I don't have knight c6 like they would have it here. After take, knight c3, e5, take, d4, knight e4, check, and now there is no pawns on c6 and c4, therefore knight can get to c6, and I like this position. Because of that, we're going to play another variation which goes after knight f6, take, bishop f4, here, a6, and bishop d3, and we will be playing bishop g4, but again, that's the next lesson. As for now, let's concentrate on the main line, and this is the main line. There's nothing else to play, and bishop f4, of course, is the move. Now we're playing a6. We have a lot of moves here. We have bishop f5, we have knight e4, we have e6, and we have a6. a6, in my opinion, is the best move, I'm pretty sure, because I know how to get advantages against bishop f5 with white. I know how to get advantage against e6. I know how to get advantage against knight e4. But I don't really know how to get advantage against a6, and especially latest development of this variation put some questions on Slav exchange. But again, it's a huge research. If you ask me why do I play it with white, because I know my opponents don't know what I know and how to defend properly with black. So today I will show you how to do it. So after a6, what's the idea? We waiting for the pawn to go to e3, or we're waiting for the main move, rook c1. We don't really waiting for the move because it's a useful move, but we are not blocking the bishop with e6. For example, let's take a look at the drawback of bishop f5. They go e3, and after e6, they go queen b3. That is an annoying line, and now it is uncomfortable to defend this pawn on b7. There are lines with bishop b4, of course, there's lines with queen b6, but I analyze it pretty deep. I don't see a full equality for black, that's why I don't recommend you these lines. Now, what do we do with a6? First of all, queen b3 is never possible now because there's nothing to attack. Now they play rook c1, that's the best move. Let's talk about e3, and I wrote here, most likely to be played under 1900 level. People just don't know about rook c1 on that level. They think it's the same, they want to play e3. But even I, for example, you're gonna laugh, but I played this position so many times with white, maybe like 7 times in tournaments, and when my opponents played a6, I didn't even care. I just played e3 because I just wanted to play chess. I didn't know rook c1 was the main move. I even beat grandmasters with e3. But just because maybe I was better chess player or I was understanding the position better, because I played it half of my life. But to be realistic, after e3, bishop g4, in my opinion, equalizes. This is what I wrote. This basically equalizes. Now we're going to study this, because if you're under 1900, this is going to happen. Okay? And what your opponent going to play? Also, even 2300s could do e3, you know? It doesn't matter. We just have to cover this line. So, they play bishop e2. This is the main line. It's the most non-ambitious move, if I may say so, because it just... white is just reflecting to black's play. We don't really need this bishop, by the way, on c8. We happily will be trading whenever we want. But that's for now we develop. e6 castle, bishop d6. We want to equalize. We don't mind that. Take, take. Rook c1 castle. Knight a4. Rook c8. And if knight c5, for example, we just play rook c7. That is already at least equal for black. We planning to double up here, and eventually we will kick this knight. We might play a move like a5 and b6, or depending if we need to play knight d7. The probability of this is low. I don't believe your opponents are planning to play bishop e2. If at all they're planning specifically to play this variation and prepare something, they can go for a sharper queen b3. But it doesn't work. I didn't close with e6, so I can return, so I can play knight a5. Check, bishop d7, and after queen c2, rook c8. So now I'm still not closing my bishop. I want to play all the good moves for myself. Bishop d3, b5. Now I'm threatening b4 to win the piece. And if a3, they're making already a big confession with this move, because now this square becomes even weaker. Now we will close e6 because we need to develop. Knight e5, bishop e7, castle. Knight h5 was the best move. We could castle, but this is much better. And after bishop g3, g6, again, I put equality. I would, of course, prefer this position with black to play. I will just want castle. I will take this bishop whatever I want. And, of course, stuff like knight c4 is coming. So, queen b3, and let's go to this one more variation here. Queen c2, rook c8, bishop d3, b5, if queen e2, a main line. And I used to have this variation with bishop g4, and after h3, take, take, e6, but a4 gives white some advantage. Therefore, there is a better solution for black is not to play bishop g4, but to play very direct and attacking b4. So now they have only one good move, knight d1, and we here play queen b6. Amazing move. The idea is actually to play bishop b5, and white's best move here is b3. I'm going to show you evaluation. Let's use engine. So, of course, taking is not good due to rook a8, and after bishop goes back, we have this trick with knight b3. And after rook b1, rook takes a2, black should be better, but computer shows equality. In any case, no one will want to take the pawn on a6. So let's say they're going to play a move like b3. I think this is the best move, and then we go bishop b5. That's a very important move. And now, of course, knight b2 is the best, but it's already computer playing. You know, most likely human will take, and after queen take, take, take. This is amazing position for black, where we just want to play e6, develop bishop, and control the c file here. Computer shows equality, and we are happy here. So we can close this. So after queen e2, let's make sure we play b4. Yeah, that's the move we will have in our file. Queen b3 is covered. Now bishop d3, this is what I used to play myself with white. I just played chess again. I didn't get any advantages with white. I was just playing equal position. So castle, bishop d6, take, take, rook c1, and just castle. Ideas here is rook fc8 or rook ac8, you want to play b5 sometime, and knight a5, knight c4. Same with white. They want to play like knight a4, and their idea is to get knight in here. But again, we have this rook c8 and rook c7 and doubling up with equality. Again, e3 is a possible move, but it's not a critical line. There's nothing to worry about this. It's not even a theory right now. It's not critical. It's just equal. So we have to analyze a very serious move. Rook c1. This is whoever is professional, or he just decided, or she just decided to learn some openings. She will know she's supposed to, or he's supposed to play this move rook c1 as the only move that promises any kind of advantage, assuming that black will make some kind of a mistake eventually. So after rook c1, we develop bishop to f5. Now we are not afraid of queen b3. Because of queen b3, we have knight a5 again. If queen check, b5 is extremely strong. There is no sacrifice because pawn takes, queen takes bishop d7. So queen has to go to d1, and after e6, this is just a big advantage for black. So queen b3 doesn't work. They will play e3, and we will play rook c8. Let's not make this mistake. e6, as it is inviting queen b3, and knight a5 is no longer good because after queen a4 check, b5 is no longer good because of knight takes b5, and white is winning here. Simple variation would be pawn take, bishop takes, check. If here knight e5, and if king e7, queen a3 will basically mate. So let's not play this move. e6, I mean, there is one of the main lines is of course rook a7, but I refuted this move rook a7 with white. After knight e5, white is just better, and I want some games. So I don't want to teach you this. So let's play rook c8. The idea, of course, if they still go queen b3, we go knight a5, and after here, we have b5, and there is no sacrifice because rook is hanging with check, and it's a losing position. So let's not be afraid of that. Against rook c8, they have now two main lines. In fact, bishop e2 is the main line. It's more played by 100 games, but it's less advantage for white. That's why I put this as a sideline, even though I can write here main line. And your point might do this, okay? But I'm going to show you how to equalize against it. We play, of course, e6. Queen b6 line we don't even need. We can delete it. So, e6. If queen b3, again knight a5. Queen a4, b5. Again, no sacrifice because rook hanging. So we have to always remember that, since we played rook on c8. So after e6, they play castle, and we play bishop d6. Some grandmasters, like world champion Kramnik Anand, they played bishop e7, but bishop d6 is just better. Take, take, and knight a4 or queen b3. If queen b3, rook c7. We defend the pawn. We want to now castle. If knight e5, then we castle. And if g4, that's a very strong move, just bishop g6. f4, have to go here. The trick is they can't trap our bishop. So f5, we can take and go take on bishop h5, but in that case d5 is hanging, so we of course take here first, and here's the trick. Take, 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 and take on e3 check. King h1 and h takes g6. Black is obviously better here, they sacrifice the piece, but we already have 3 pawns and position is open. It's a very strong pin on this rook, which is very hard to unpin, and at some point moves like d4 will be a big threat. I think the best move here is bishop f3, and the best move for black is queen e5. I don't think we can go d4 because they have rook c e1 and they untie themselves. So we're just playing queen e5 and our position is better. Okay, so that was queen b3 and there's no problems. Let's go into knight a4 variation. So idea is to quickly get to c5, but again, we castle, knight c5, rook c7. And now I just want to explain you this position, why this position is so good for black and there's no advantage for white. So a3, h3, both moves are possible, okay? So if a3, that allows bishop goes to g4. So if we go bishop g4, we want to now trade this bishop. When it was here, it's not doing anything, just looking at this empty diagonal, so we want to get rid of it. So b4 we take, and breaking with a5, that's the best move. Of course, if b5, we just move our knight and follow up with a development like this, and at some point we can kick it out, and this bishop is not a good bishop, okay? Even if it goes here, it's still not a good bishop. So dead bishop on f3. So, and now let's say if they're trying to be smart and prevent move like bishop g4, but they don't know that that was a threat. We just develop normal development, and I have some moves here. And if they take, here f5, and knight b3, queen f7. Again, equality. Why this position is equal, even though white's pawn structure seems better. For example, if we go knight c5, we also can just maneuver our knight to e7 and put it on d5, and eventually kick this knight with a5 and b6. It's just an equal position. Also, we have some ideas of attacking on this side. But again, this is just, h3 is just the best move, but I don't know if anyone knows this. Of course not. Anyways, that was our bishop e2. I think we finished it. And again, not as strong as knight e5. It's much more annoying, this move. And if you don't know what to do against knight e5, you're going to be in trouble. So let's make sure we understand how to play. So first of all, we have to take. e6 does not equalize because of queen b3. And I don't have to show you all this variation because they're not equalizing. I can even delete so you don't get confused. Delete this. So after knight e5, we take on e5. Now they have options. Actually, I was surprised that d takes e5 is actually legit. Then we go knight e4. Of course, they cannot take here because of rook takes c1 followed by queen takes d5. So they take on e4. We take on c1, queen takes c1. And, you know, most people play bishop takes e4, but in my opinion, after e6, white is better. I don't have to show you because I want you to remember that you're going to take with pawn. And after bishop e2, queen a5 check, that's very important because we need to go to endgame. Take, and e6. Obviously, for rook c1, we have just king d7, but king c3, h5 is the best move. The idea is simple, bishop e7, g5, get more space. If rook d1, just bishop e7. And we are getting into this equal position in which no one can basically win. But again, when they play Slav exchange and they play some accurate moves, we just can't win. We just have to accept a draw or equal position. And we should be happy with that. So now, of course, main line is bishop takes. That's more headache. In that case, we're playing e6. Finally, we really want to develop. If something like normal, like bishop e2, it's very mild. Of course, there's no point. We just play bishop e7, we just castle. We're doing great. And we're going to consider this very sharp move, queen b3, because right on time they attack this pawn. And it's not that easy to defend. For example, if b5, the sacrifices or moves like a4 may happen. Let's just, for example, assume if you played b5, a4, b4, and take a6. Take c3, take c8, queen c8, and of course bishop takes f6 first, g takes, and rook takes c3, and white is winning here because of these two passed pawns and not developed king, and okay, this is just too much losing. So this b5 is bad. I can leave it, I can also delete it, but okay, let's leave it for now. That's why it's bad. So after queen d7, we have to defend like this. It's a good thing that we're still pinning this. So bishop goes to e2 and knight e4. So speaking of this knight e4, this is not the main line. Let's take a look. Let's open online. I had to delete bunch of variation that goes with bishop e7. My main line was this. That used to be my main line. And this is how most of my opponents played against me with bishop e7, and I had to show them a beautiful preparation. But to you, I have to reveal that knight e4 is basically a refutation of this line. It's so strong, and it's been played now 13 times, as you can see, with a better score for black. So knight e4, this is the main problem of the whole Slav exchange variation, and there's not much white can do, but they have to play this f3, which is the best move. If you just castle, of course, you're blundering knight d2. And let's go into the f3. And now some people took on c3, which is a mistake, but knight d6 is extremely powerful move. So now king f2 is the best. If castle, it's already inaccuracy because we play knight c4. we're threatening to go here. So for example, if you go rook e1, we take the bishop. Take, and bishop e7. Knight a4, rook c6, black is already better here. Nothing can prevent our castle, and we have two bishops. If you don't go rook e1 and you go e4, then we have knight d2. And again, we're having an upper hand, because you cannot trap our knight wherever you go with queens. For example, if you go queen c2, I can take, you take, and I escape. And game over, because knight takes f5 also, I escape. So king f2 instead of castle is much better. And then we go knight c4, attacking the bishop on e5 and asking our opponent what's his next move. So for example, if they take, we take with pawn. Queen d1 and b5. We could also play f6 and then b5, but I like b5 more. e4, bishop here. And black is already slightly better. We want to play f6, we want to develop bishop e7, castle, and this pawn majority and two bishops. And a weak king for white. The only good thing for white they have is a center. And it could be vulnerable at some point. So black is better here. So no taking the knight. They go rook d1, that's the best move. And now we go b5. e4 is the best. We take, and bishop g6. Believe it or not, this is so advanced, and it still considers to be the best line for both colors. And I was showing this to one of my students, Adarsh Jayakumar, who is international master elect, when he was playing professionally. And he played against this grandmaster Vidit in this game. Vidit Santosh Gujarati. Right now, Vidit is almost 2700 FIDE, and Adarsh is like 2380, something like this. But he drew with white because somehow this guy, Vidit, he just knew all this. He knew exactly how to play. He knew exactly how to proceed and was able to equalize. And imagine this, for a player like 2200 playing against 2500 and making a draw with white, making him doing the draw, it was amazing, I think, right? So both played the best variation, so we can actually restore the game. And in this position, bishop takes c4 was played, but my analysis were with a4. That were my analysis, and I think Adarsh still played the best move, bishop takes c4, and a4 doesn't stand that strong if black knows exactly this variation. So we have to take, and give a check, king f1 and queen b7. If a takes b5, we just castle. Knight a4, bishop e7. Queen is hanging on b3 if you take a6. So take, b6 is the best, and we take on e4 attacking g2, bishop f3, queen c6, and black is better here. For whatever variation you can choose. If b7, rook b8, just bad for white, and if rook d4, we take, if take, check, and this position is also better for black. So Adarsh played the best move, he took. We can take with both ways. In the game, rook took on c4, and that is the best move. And there's one variation I have, what happens if knight takes b5. I think this is the clear way to make a draw. If white wants to draw, and you'd have to accept it. We take, they take on c4, take and check, block, check, block, check, block, and the draw happens. So basically this is the most critical variation, and if you're playing anyone who is really strong with Slav exchange, he should go for here, otherwise he has to settle for less. And we will go all the way back. Let's go here. As you can see, Slav exchange is not as huge when you're playing it with black. You just have to know what's the white's best choices. It's always harder to play this with white because black has more variations and more possibilities. But with this line for us, we're choosing a tiny line with black that we're playing. We're sticking with the main line. We're sticking with a6, and we're sticking with bishop f5 followed by rook c8. We know we don't rush with this e6. And if knight e5, the most annoying, then we gotta take, bishop take, e6, and queen d7. And the most important is this key move, knight e4. I'm gonna write this here, key move. Do not forget, huge chance your opponent has no idea of the existence of this move because he will only know bishop e7, which is actually main line. But we don't do this, we play a better version of this, knight e4. So, alright, so right now we know how to play against main line, and our next lesson, I will show you how to play against this variation where we have knight on f6, for example, right? And after bishop f4, knight c6, e3, a6. So that's going to be second part of Slav exchange. As for now, we're done, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.